Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, we are going to be looking at a very interesting case study, and we are going to focus on ideation. And this project, which is actually redesigning the retail outlets for Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. This was first done in 2003 and then again repeated in 2018 to add on to what we had done. Okay, and it was implemented all over the country in the 15,000 and odd retail outlets. Okay, so we interestingly used inspiration from the nature, from the elements of design, and that's what we are going to look at it here. It's a design case study on BPCL, that is Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited retail design, and we have used ideation through inspiration from nature, and I said that we've actually looked at the elements of design, and we have used these as metaphors to come out with different ideas. We're going to present that in this case study. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on ideation. The project was done by two of us, myself, Ravi Puaya, and my partner, Dr. Ajanta Sen. So we were the two designers who were thinking behind and putting it into place. We worked with a lot of stakeholders. We worked with the engineering company to make the prototypes and also implement it in few of the locations, and then it was rolled out. So if you look at it, we looked at all the design principles which go into design of a retail visual identity program for a retail outlet. Okay, we did secondary research on what's happening all over the world. Okay, we went into the ground, as I said, we went to the different parts of the country, talked to BPCL officials, the dealers, the end users. Like for example, one of the outcomes for this was that actually a lot of people believed if the attendants who were dispensing the fuel were actually female attendants, they had more confidence in them. So they started creating outlets with majority of female attendees for dispensing the petrol. That was one of the strategies. Okay, so I'll mention many of these small points which came out of our primary research and finally got implemented into the program itself. Okay, so we also looked at what are the corporate goals or the vision of the company. Okay, and we said it's right for us to take the vision and then convert that into metaphors and then make it into design elements. We'll see how we have done that. Okay, of course, does it actually tell a story or is there a theme behind it? That was very important for us. And also we felt that because we're going to make a lot of changes, so the experience of using this product has to be implemented quite nicely. Okay, so the experience in design, because it's a service sector, was very, very important into it. Okay, and then you go to the petrol station, not just for filling fuel, but you can also, maybe you can go to the ATM there, you can have a cup of tea or coffee there. Okay, so it also becomes partly a social ritual, and you get things, probably 24 hours of the day over there. So this was another factor which was very, very important to it. Okay, and also we realized you can get feedback from the users. Okay, but they are not designers. So you take the feedback positively and implement it as ideas into the final solution. Okay, so the corporate goals were caring, reliable and innovative. So these were the three main corporate goals, and we decided let's take each one of them and then convert it into recommendations. Okay, so what does caring mean? It means the organization is very caring about the people it interacts with. Okay, so it has to be a comfortable interaction, and should lead to a positive experience. That is very important, because if you take care as one of your corporate goals, and it has to be felt and seen. Okay, so now we go into the step of using the design elements. Can you interpret it in form of shape, color, and form of the elements? Okay, so again, going further, for example, in terms of the form, if it has to be caring, it has to be soft, it has to be curved, it has to be feminine, it probably waves are much better at interpreting this. If you take colors, for example, it has to be pleasant colors, not very bright, maybe pastel shades or off-whites, but not primary colors, not reflections, not at all steel. Okay, so these were some of the ways of actually interpreting caring. Okay, so let's look at reliable. Reliable in terms of form has to be clean forms. Okay, that's where you get confidence. No unnecessary details. Details can be hidden. Symmetry plays a very important role. Okay, in terms of the colors, off whites or off black. Blue is the color for reliability, not grays. Okay, so that was very important if you want to actually convey that this facility is reliable. We also said that reliability comes from the services they get or the experience of the services. So the service needs to be very efficient, prompt and proper, and the place has to be very clean, neat and well organized, and there has to be a specific place for everything. Nothing is scattered around. Okay, so these were very, very important for that. The company also had a corporate goal of being innovative. What does innovative mean in terms of form? It means it's unusual forms. Maybe we can put a sculpture by an artist or a painting by an artist in each of the outlets. In terms of the colors, it's splashes of color, okay, or a painting or a mural by an artist. Interpretation of schemes has to be new schemes all the time. There are services being offered, so the company looks and is actually innovative in many of its activities. Okay, so these were the corporate goals and how possibly we could actually interpret it. Okay, so what we did was that we took inspiration from elements of nature. We looked at wind, fire and water as metaphors to represent the BPCL's corporate goals and design intent. Okay, so again repeating it, nature as inspiration. We looked at wind, fire and water. These are part of the 5 elements of the nature, and we use these as metaphors to represent the corporate goals. Okay, so we'll see how it is done. So let's look at the first one. Okay, so fire representing the condition of energy, right, and visualized as arcs, angular arcs or spits of fire, as flames, as triangular silhouettes of the part of the flames. Okay, unusual occasional bursts, sudden, it's asymmetrical, but there is a lot of vitality of movement. Okay, wind representing the conditions of outreach, okay, associated with elliptical, with clouds, with freshness, with seeds of uniqueness from distant lands, right? That's what the wind actually represents. Water representing the conditions of fluid, okay, manifests itself being wavy, circular. Okay, lotus, for example, is connected with fluid, and of course the yin and yang of the form itself, which actually incidentally also was part of the logo. Okay, so very nicely we could actually use fire, wind and water as 3 ideations to represent the corporate goals. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Okay, so the energy or the dynamism, which is the first one, and you can use fire to represent it. So arcs, angular, flame and triangle. Okay, and in terms of the elements, visual elements, you can see the blue is gradually used there, and there are these arcs which form sequences which represent in some ways the form of the fire. Okay, and you can represent it in form of the elements of design. So for example, the signage can actually have these colors and waves which will represent the niceness of fire. Okay, and you can interpret that in terms of the main sign pole with the logo out there. Okay, Bharat Petroleum. okay, and have also the smaller signages as part of the same language. And the fire, for example, is interpreted this way in the canopy. The canopy is yellow, okay, and it has these sharp corners to represent the fire, okay, and the island itself is a very major feature, okay. So it has again blue color, but it represents part of the fire. And the sales building, for example, has these colors, and the shape again comes, okay. So that's the shop out there, and these are the signages, okay. So now you're looking at actually a scale model. So a small scale model which represents all the elements, and there is a sculpture by an artist which is put in the middle, okay. And this is another angular view of it. You have the canopy, you have all the islands where the vehicles can come to fuel their these things. This is one part, okay, where, for example, you can actually fill in air for your tires, okay, and you can test it out, okay, and you have the main sign pole out there, okay. So these are the rendered versions, the smaller canopies for scooters and three-wheelers, okay, and the bigger canopy behind it, okay. So this represents the fire element and the variation of the theme as part of the ideation. So let's go to a second ideation part of it, okay, where the outreach is taken by wind, okay. So the wind is clouds, it's elliptical, okay. So these are the ways to represent it. And when you start using elements of design, it becomes cloudy like this, again using the blue color, which is the corporate color, or arcs like this, which is made out of the other color, okay. So this is how actually you can represent the wind, okay. So that's the design solution 1. And when you have signages, you again have the curve there to represent the wind, okay, and the blue is used to represent the different facilities in the location, in the retail outlet. And this is the main sign pole, okay. Again the part of the wind becomes a representation of this. Oval is used to represent the different facilities, okay, and the canopy itself is an arc, okay. Everything is arc. So you can see that the wind, it almost like the wind plays an extremely important role in design of this. And the sales building also has splashes of the wind. It's almost like the cloud enveloping it, okay. And this is the scale model of it with the canopy and the different facilities around it, okay, and a close-up of the canopy with the pump islands, okay. And you have the central island out there with the main signages, the sculpture, okay, and this is the side view of it with the main sign pole and a notice board, and this is the rendered version of it and how it looks at night, okay. So that was solution 2, okay. So let's look at conceptual solution 3, where we have used the third metaphor, the fluid or the water. Water is wavy, circular, lotus represents fluidity or the yin and yang form, also very, very important as part of this. So when you actually convert it into elements of design, you can see that there are curve, and the colors of blue and yellow play a very important role in this. You can even use the yin and yang as part of the solution. So that's how the theme is expressed here, okay. And in terms of signages, you can see that the curve becomes not as defined as much as in the wind, okay. So the water is lot more smoother, okay. So you have the blue for representing the different facilities, okay, and they're all part of the same family. And you can see that the main sign pole has still the curves, okay, and the blue color plays an important role in that. And there is a signage which is a swish of a wave which comes at the bottom of it, okay. So that's part of this, and the canopy looks like this. So again you have the wavy curve where the Bharat Petroleum is represented. The wavy curve is also part of the signages, okay, and this is how it looks. And if it is a long canopy, you have waves representing the canopy itself, and then the pump islands in between these, Okay, this is the representation of the sales building. So again, you can see the curve out there. Okay, so you're basically, you know, representing the different elements out here. So this is the overall view of the scene here. Okay, and you can see the canopy with the sales building at the back of it and the main signage at the side of it. Okay, and these are the scale models where you can see it in a scale version. Okay, main canopy. This is the main canopy with the smaller canopy, which is a circular canopy for scooters and three-wheelers. Okay, and this is a side view of it. Okay, and you have the sculpture in the main island out there. Okay, and this is a shot from the fence, which is also, if you can see it, has a wave in it. Okay, so roughly it represents this, and this is the sales building, a shot of it from the side, and you can see the place where you can put in air for your vehicles. This is a top view of the scale model. Okay, so you get the three versions, and this is the rendered version of it. Okay, and one thing I wanted to mention here is that was part of the feedback we had got. So when we went into the field, we were actually very surprised, because if you look at it, the signage is quite tall. It's almost as tall as 2.5-storied building. So we found out that, you know, at smaller places where they don't have proper ladders to go up, many people actually fall down while replacing the lights. Okay, either they get injured or badly injured. Okay, so we decided that, you know, we will not actually light it from back. Okay, it will be front lit, and if at all there are lights, you can actually pull it down. It was the first time that was being done here, you know. So all the lights which are there are on pulleys, and you can actually, for servicing it, it comes down and you can change the tube lights over there. Okay, so that was a major contribution to this. Okay, so this is a close-up of the pump island. Okay, and yeah, close-up of the two smaller islands for the scooters and three-wheelers. Okay, so further steps. So once we did this, the corporation took the three models to their office and got feedback from many people, and a majority of them actually went with the fluid version. Okay, so the water version. Okay, so the solution 3 was selected to be implemented. Then we had to actually make prototypes of it, and you have to make full-size prototypes. It was very interesting because the partners in this was Evergreen Engineers in Mumbai. Okay, and they were located in MIDC in Mumbai, and they said that we'll actually build the prototype inside our factory itself, and they said that let's use the terrace on the 3rd floor to actually put up one part of the canopy itself. So we actually built a full prototype in the factory, got feedback and made corrections and things like that. Then the next stage was that once that we were happy with that, we went to 3 metros with different kind of locations, and we put up about 6 of them in the different metros, and again got feedback on them. And once the feedback was positive, okay, it was actually taken for rollout, and then that's how it got implemented in 15,000 outlets. So BPCL again came back to us in 2018, and they said that now after 15 years technology could have changed, you could probably save some money. Can you actually make it much more efficient? Okay, and one of the biggest considerations for us was the electricity consumption. Okay, and leaders had just come in, and there was a very efficient way of using it. Okay, so this was tested and again prototyped, and now it's again implemented, I think, in all the 15,000 or more outlets. Okay, and this is part of it. So it looks, the blue color is used to light the underneath part of it at night, and you can see the yellow color forming the wave of the canopy. Okay, so this is some versions of the retail outlet. Okay, so you can see that in this ideation we have actually used inspirations from nature and used metaphors okay, to actually come out with ideations. That's the point I wanted to make here.